Okay, so we've had a big morning on site this morning, finishing off our passive house blower door test. So we've
had a successful result. So after setting up and running the blower door for a bit and troubleshooting around, making sure we found any little small items that needed to be attended to, we were able to achieve the passive house rating at 0.6 air changes per hour at 50 Pascal pressure, so we're very happy with that. And it's allowed us to proceed to the next stage, start enclosing things inside and move forward with the project. Also, whilst we're on the blower door test, I guess we wanted to touch base on a few things relating to passive house. There's been a few questions floating around, and we thought we'd put a few things out there just to help answer those questions and give people a bit more information regarding it. A lot of people ask if it's worth it.
Why are you bothering? What makes the big difference? And I guess really when you look at the figures, passive house buildings require about 90% less heating energy than a conventional home, which is it adds up quite significantly, really.
Especially when you consider the rises in resources, the costing of resources, so electricity, gas, those sorts of things. The more those prices rise, the more effective having a passive house building is going to be regarding your heating and cooling costs. So it kind of makes sense to be leaning towards that type of construction to for the future of your build and your home. People ask if they're stuffy, whether being inside a house that is got to have an airtight rating and be wrapped up internally, and does it feel stuffy inside a house? Well, to be in a passive house building, you've got to have something that's rated to passive house, has to have a ventilation system, so you never feel stuffy within the house, and you actually get the added bonus of having the ventilation system. So with that, you've got a constant air movement through the house, replacing the stale air with fresh air from outside that has been filtered. So for people with allergies and things like that, it's a much nicer environment to be living in, and it also expels all the stale air, giving you that opportunity.
So the added bonus to that too is that it doesn't leave the opportunity for mould or excessive moisture to develop within the home itself. So it really does make for an exceptional indoor air quality when you look at that filtration system. And it's not that you can't open a window. Windows are featured in passive houses. You can open a window, that's absolutely fine. It's just not necessary when you have that constant filtration of fresh air coming in.
Yeah, definitely. It's certainly not you're locked in a box and you can't open a door.
No.
I guess the next step would be people wonder whether it is more expensive than a conventional build. There is extra cost in building a passive house, but it's offset in other ways. So your heating and cooling demands are a lot less, so your system to do that, your ventilation system covers a bit of that cost adjustment, but it's getting it's getting closer to a conventional house build cost each day. The more and more people are using the products and materials to create this style of construction, it gets closer and closer in cost. But the longevity of your home, you recoup those extra costs anyway very quickly. So it's something definitely worth considering for a long-term build.
And I love a heater. I love to sit in front of the heater. So we've had a few people say, does that mean I don't have to have a heater? And the way a passive house works is because it is a sealed internal environment, it does only rely on the passive heat coming from sources such as body heat and sunshine and heat radiating off tech devices and things like that. However, you can have a heater. That's not to say that you can't. There are some specified ones that are recommended. However, you can certainly have the ambiance of a nice.
You can have a fire and things like that. But as mentioned, it has to be a fire that is set up to work in a passive house construction. The level of heat that you require to heat your house would be far less, so you would not want to run it constantly because you'd be cooking yourself inside. So you have the ability to obviously adjust that, but it's certainly not as big a heating requirement, so you can choose to have that money spent elsewhere, and also the space that they can take up at different times inside the building can be used for other things.
And that's the key with the ventilation system too, with that constant flow of fresh air coming on in. You've only got to change the temperature of the air coming in slightly, and you completely adjust the entire internal air temperature. So it's a very efficient way of heating or cooling a house very, very quickly. And it's not overly complicated. It kind of is. It's there's the heating load and thermal bridging, and there's air tightness calculations, and there's a whole lot of things like that can make it seem quite a complicated thing. However,
that's what the design professionals are there for. So a passive house consultant or designer is able to provide those calculations. They do all the working out. There's formulas and that for them to make those calculations, but they can use those to predict your heating and electricity usage throughout the use of your home. So for a year they can map ahead how much electricity on average you should be using to operate your house at that base standard, and that works on having a comfortable environment for you to be living in the house without the extra use of appliances and things like that to heat or cool the premises. So that's, I guess, passive house in a fairly rough outline.
We have got a link on our website that I'll put on Facebook as well, that it does give sort of like a graphic explanation. It's in about 90 seconds of little pictures and things like that does discuss it further, and there's a couple of other pieces of information that we can put up, but that's sort of the main questions that we often get asked about it. But please feel free to touch base if you've got any further questions, and let us know, and hopefully we see a lot more passive houses being built within Australia, and particularly down around our way, because it's a really impressive way of moving forward with construction technology.
Yep, definitely. All right, thank
Thanks.
you.